Welcome to our third installment of the National Hispanic Media Coalition's Virtual Impact Summit Series 2021. For our final episode of the year, we will be celebrating women empowerment. We would like to thank Univision, T-Mobile, Google, the National Association of Broadcasters, KTLA, and Fletcher, Hield & Hildreth for your ongoing support of our mission to create opportunities and resources, connect Latinx talent with the entertainment industry, and overall create bridges where they don't exist. We are elated to have a returning honoree and host. She has interviewed authors, filmmakers, dignitaries, and local experts as part of her daily breaking news coverage at NBC4, covering impactful stories such as Rodney King's death, the notorious Juarez murders, Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, and 9/11. She has been recognized as Best Anchor by the Texas Associated Press, the Austin Chronicle, and Rare Magazine, and was also part of the news team that won the Best Newscast Award from the Texas Associated Press in 2007. She was selected by the Austin American-Statesman to be included in their Fortunate 500 list for community service for 7 consecutive years, and was awarded the prestigious Excellence in Broadcast Journalism Impact Award by the National Hispanic Media Coalition. You can catch her coverage on NBC4's Today in LA on weekdays and NBC4 News at 11 a.m. She also anchors the weekend edition of Today in LA from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Please welcome award-winning journalist and proud Corgi mom, Michelle Valles.
Welcome to the National Hispanic Media Coalition's Impact Summit Series, Women Empowerment. My name is Michelle Valles, and I will be your host today. I'm so honored and happy to be working with the coalition once again. As you have already heard, we have a lengthy relationship, and I have so much love for this organization doing great things. In today's installment, we will be highlighting women in various forms of media. These women have claimed their rightful space in television, publications, music, tech, and executive positions. We have so much more to accomplish, but we are definitely on our way. So let's celebrate, and let's begin with a message from one of the coalition's first volunteers in the 80s, who is now the organization's first woman president and CEO. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Brenda Victoria Castillo.
Thank you, Michelle. Welcome everyone to our final Impact Summit on Women Empowerment. This summit holds a special place in my heart as it focuses on amazing women of influence across industries. 2 of the fields we'll be focusing on are tech and entertainment. After listening to these panels, honorees, and discussions, we want you to walk away realizing that the game is changing. There are impactful women and women of color out there that are creating space and rewriting the rules. The whole point of this summit is to empower, encourage, and uplift women, especially those women still reaching for their potential. Empowerment is the authority or power given to somebody to do something. For women, though, that authority is often not given to us. That's why I urge others to find that power within each other. We can't wait for someone else to give it to us. We must create it ourselves. This episode of the NHMC's Virtual Impact Summit is dedicated to my abuelita, Maria Mercedes Jaime, someone who empowered me through her actions. She crossed the border from Juarez, Mexico to El Paso, Texas at age 16 to find work and a better future for herself and her family. I wouldn't be who I am and where I am today if it wasn't for her. Gracias, abuelita, for empowering yourself at such a young age. And now enjoy our Women Empowerment Summit.
Brenda, thank you for including me in the summit again and celebrating women and all of our accomplishments. In the midst of a pandemic, it's great to see that the National Hispanic Media Coalition has stayed steadfast in its mission of helping those in need, which only speaks to women consistently doing what needs to be done, especially with an organization with a team made up of women. I can only imagine how much more it will grow in the near future. In the spirit of women creating excellence, we are so excited to have diverse women in leadership positions in the tech space for a conversation with Brenda Castillo. We have with us today a leader in national partnerships with diverse stakeholders on policy issues spanning media, technology, and telecommunications. The Executive Director of External Affairs at Comcast Corporation, Jackie Puente. Google also has a Next Gen Policy Leaders program, and we have with us the woman who leads that program, Chanelle Hardy, who heads up Google's Civil Rights Program and engagement with the multicultural and civil rights organizations. Take it away, Brenda.
Jackie and Chanelle, you are both strong, confident, and very much in control of your rights as a woman. And I am so glad that you are in these positions of influence in tech. At the National Hispanic Media Coalition, we have worked towards building a pipeline in tech policy. We currently have 3 policy tech fellows and 2 are women. However, we cannot deny that there is a strong gender gap in technology, especially for women of color in leadership roles. What do you think holds women back from entering into this field? And what can we do to empower women to enter into this space?
I'll jump in. And Brenda, thank you so much for bringing us all together for this conversation. This is so important. It's unbelievable that we're having this conversation still in 2021. And I'm just really pleased for the opportunity to be here to talk a little bit about this. And I think, you're doing the work, right? It's pulling up a chair for the next generation of women leaders to participate. And, that's one of the reasons we're so proud to work with NHMC, to see how you have the staff of young, really smart, energetic women that are diving into these issues and looking at them with a critical eye and real sense of what it means for our community. This is something that I've been doing in my career. I've been at Comcast now for 10 years, and it's identifying women that have that interest or have that passion for the work, and then inviting them to be a part of this. Because I do think, if you are following technology trends and you're reading, what's happening in the news, that that there is, a bias or more men in this space. And you have to be willing to take that on and say, I am just as good as any man doing these jobs, right? I don't need to be consigned to what they call the pink collar jobs, right? The PR or the, product testing, right? That I can jump in and take a leadership role. And I think, for our work in policy and public affairs, a lot of it is saying, I bring valuable experience as a woman, as a leader in my family, as a leader in my community, to how technology is shaping our lives.
Chanelle?
Yeah, I agree with everything Jackie said, and I also am just thrilled to be here with both of you today, and such a fan of NHMC's work, and of course, your leadership as a woman leader who just leads by example. And that's really what is so critical, is being able to see yourself, right? And so I think as we continue to see those leaders, I'm fortunate to have some women executives of color at Google, and I can look up to Ana-Christina as our, Chief Operating Officer for Google Hardware. Halima Delane Prado is our General Counsel. Seeing women in those positions really provides a demonstration that it's not wishful thinking. There are real possibilities for you, not only as a woman, but in particular as a woman of color. And I've really focused in the policy area and really just connecting the dots for folks, because so often, women might have very clear expertise that's totally relevant to tech issues. And sometimes there's a question of how these pieces connect. If we can kind of bridge that divide, I think that a lot of women will see that there's a natural fit for the expertise and perspective that they bring.
I did a little research last night, and some of the stats some of the reasons that hold women back is, number one, the lack of mentors, the lack of female role models in the same field, gender bias, unequal growth opportunities with male coworkers, and then the lesser wage. And, I myself has experienced a lesser wage. And I think it's very hard.
Who hasn't experienced the lesser wage? I mean, it's a much smaller list.
And it's so hard to speak up when you're in that position. But I think women in general, and, this whole summit, it's called Women Empowerment. I really believe that, women have to empower themselves. They can't wait for somebody else to empower them. And sometimes we're fearful to ask more money, but I got to tell you, a lot of times we don't get that increase because we just don't ask, right? So I think more and more, what's the worst that can happen? They're going to turn you down, then you come back and you ask again. So I definitely think that's an area that we have to improve. One of our contractors, Dacre Ryan, started off as a fellow, a policy tech fellow here at NHMC, and then she was a staff person. Now she owns her own company. We're very proud of her. And in listening to her and her story, it wasn't like she went to college and she knew she was going to major in policy or tech. She went to law school, and so when she did her fellowship here, and this is why I truly believe fellowships are so important. It was when she did her fellowship here, the attorney who worked for us at the time, Mike Scarrato, told her, you know, you're really good at this. And that's what gave her kind of like the push. This is where I want to go. So we need, you know, those supporters, those mentors, whether they're female or male, to jump in. And I wanted each of you to share how you got into this role. Did you just kind of fall into it, or was this a planned decision in your career? Chanelle, if you can start first.
Sure. And just a lot of what you were saying was resonating with me, because so much of this is really about access to information, which is one of the things that I'm most passionate about in this field. And that a lot of these career paths, just who knew? I still don't think there's probably a lot of elementary school students who are saying they want to be a lobbyist, or they want to be in public affairs, or they want to be in tech policy. But there are lots of people, myself included, who are really passionate about, I want to advance social justice for my community. I want to see folks who are from multicultural backgrounds at the table as decision makers. And so I was like Dacre, you know, kind of found opportunities that opened doors to me. So I actually was a 5th grade teacher and then went to law school. And after law school and having worked temporarily for the Public Defender Service, I was like, I think I want to be part of actually rethinking systems as a whole, as opposed to trying to make the best of a challenging situation. And so I found a fellowship opportunity at what's now Consumer Reports Advocacy. And that was just how I happened to be exposed to tech and media policy. And as soon as I got into those rooms, even that early in my career, and saw the rooms were not representative of people that look like us, I was just like, this is probably a good place to stay. And as I've gone to roles on Capitol Hill and at the federal agencies and at civil rights before coming to Google, tech and telecom and media issues have been an important part of my focus.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that has been said really resonates with me. I mean, my family, and I'm one of 3 girls, right? They were very focused on us having jobs where we were going to be able to pay our bills and be responsible for ourselves as soon as possible. And I remember telling my parents I wanted to come to Washington, D.C. to study international affairs and Russian language. And they said, what does someone do with that, right? And who knows, right? I was like, I'll study economics because that made more sense to them. They knew what economics was, and that would hopefully get me a job, you know, that would make me successful, right? Professionally successful. And so it's about non-traditional career paths, right? I was an economist. I worked with the Treasury Department before I realized that my passion was communicating these campaigns and really informing groups about what was happening in the policy world, right? That so many people outside the Beltway or outside of state legislatures don't really understand, you know, or don't have the access to the information that has such a critical impact on their lives. And so, you know, going from becoming an economist, right, to working on public policy campaigns and trying to communicate you know, what decision makers are facing and how do we make the best choices that improve everyone's lives. That's not, you know, oh, I'm going to do this. And to think that you're going to do it for a company, I think is even less, you know, less likely, right? I thought, oh, I'll go work, you know, with Congress, or I'll go work in a federal agency. And to be able to run campaigns working with companies and large consumer groups, right, is not necessarily, to Chanelle's point, what every 3rd grader goes in saying that they want to do when they grow up. But I think that, you know, right now, every company, right, in America, every company in the world is essentially a technology company, right? As you have to communicate your product products and services to your, potential consumers. And I know, my son, for example, loves playing video games. And he says, I want to go work with the video game company when I grow up. And I say to him, well, that requires, you understanding more than just the interface right at the end that you see, that you have to have that, background of skills. And you see it with all the kids in his class, right? That technology is such a huge part of their lives, showing them how going from playing video games to making video games, or, all the things in between, is really critical for everyone to feel they have an equal opportunity to do.
Jackie, I didn't know you were one of 3 daughters. So I have 2 sisters. I was in the same boat. And Chanelle, this is
one of 5.
One of 5.
Oh, there we go.
Coming from Black and brown families, and Jackie, our culture, and did you have the support you needed as a young girl pushing you towards getting an education and having a career?
I was very fortunate. My mom, I think, took many of these battles on before I was born. And I remember she tells us stories about when she wanted to get her MBA in the, 70s, and how unpopular that was with her parents. But you think about, my sisters and I were all expected to go to college, right? My parents didn't ever think that we would not be attending college. But they were also, very critical about what we were going to study, right? We weren't going to be able to be literature. I wanted to be a Russian literature major, right? And I was told, you're not going to be a Russian literature major. And there was not a lot of discussion about that in our household. But I do know from my family and friends, I think my parents were probably, more education driven. They had seen that in their own lives. My father, for example, is an immigrant who, came back to this country and, was lucky to get scholarships and go to school and really see, the potential of what can be, what is possible here. So they had a very strong feeling about this. But I know from my family, right, not everyone has that experience. And I remember my parents just encouraging so many people, right, to, they would always say, go be a dentist, go be a doctor, right? But they would be constantly encouraging people. And I think that growing up with that around you really does change your mindset. And I'll tell you, here in Washington, D.C., over the years, and I've been here now for over 20 years, seeing so many young people that come to this city that are questioning, right? Their parents may have been unsure about them getting on a plane or a bus or a train to come here and leave their family network, which is, the largest influence in their lives, to do something independently. You have to tell them to be confident in themselves, right? Especially young women, to take it very seriously. It's a risk, but there's great reward if you are serious about your studies and serious about charting your career path. And then in the end, that can mean wonderful things for your family, right? It's just not the path that so many people know yet. And really being able to communicate that. And I work very closely with the Cisneros program at George Washington University, which is for first people and their families that go to college. And it's all the support networks. And I tell these students every single day, I know many of them go to, the NHMC events, and many of them go to all of these events around the city, but that this is their big chance to do something tremendous for themselves and their families.
May I ask you what country your father was from?
He's from Spain.
Oh,
my father's Spanish. Mm-hmm.
And then Chanelle, I remember us having dinner one time. Was your father a pastor?
He is a lay minister, and also a naval officer that actually ended up going into the tech sector. Which I never even really thought about for many years. He was in the United States Naval Academy class of 1977, which was apparently the biggest enrollment they'd ever had for Black students. And I don't know that they've hit that number again. But he then, went to IBM and kind of went to some other opportunities from there. But yeah, I mean, I would say there's a lot of similarities in my story and Jackie's, in that I had parents who just, they just believed in us. I kind of, it was interesting growing up in a predominantly white community as this family of, I grew up with 4 sisters. My parents had 2 kids later in life. So, it's like these 4 Black girls, and we're all, definitely going to college. And, we have all these aspirations, and our parents said you could do whatever you wanted to do. So I was just kind of filled with the joy of learning for learning's sake. So I was an English and piano major before I was like, oh, I've got to come up with a career. But I think that my father really was extremely supportive, maybe even a little pushy about me going into law. He was just, thinking, as a woman of color, you'll always have a job if you have, a professional degree, and being able to have that autonomy, it was super critical. And so, one of the things that I feel like, as we learn, over generations and pass things down to the generations ahead, I think, it's even having the outstanding parents I had. I was good at math. I was good at science, but that still wasn't where, girls were pushed. And so when I was also good at literature and also good at arts, it was like, of course, yeah, you're happy doing that. You should do that. And I do think, when I talk to, like, my niece is extremely gifted in math and science, and I'm very, very supportive. We're all very supportive of, like, this is what you like. If you want to do this, you should do this. So I do think sometimes we have to even give that extra nudge to girls and young women, just because we know there's still not enough of that empowerment that you can do these things as well.
It's so terrific that she has you as an auntie. So I'm sure, thank you for sharing your journeys and your career. And I'm sure you came across many obstacles and faced them. And I'm sure, knowing you both personally, I'm sure you've overcome them. Is there one in particular that you can share with our audience today that would be helpful for them? How you maneuvered, how you strategized to get over this obstacle?
You want me to jump in, Jackie?
You can go first, or I can go. I'm happy. Go ahead.
I'll be quick. I mean, I think one that just comes to mind is, of course, you're always underestimated, when you are. Often in my career, I was, younger and browner than most people in the room. And then, often one of the few women. But I actually learned pretty quickly. And this was something, I actually was homeschooled much of my life. So I was always comfortable kind of asking adults for information. And I've always found it so powerful and useful in my career just to stay in a learning posture. Even when I know things, just being able to ask people to explain things to you or share their wisdom or make connections for you. One, it's just kind of disarming to folks because, it's like, oh, we're going to collaborate because there's still kind of a sense. I think that is something we still struggle with as we're trying to make enough space as women. There can be competitiveness, right? Or, is there a scarcity mindset as opposed to there's room for all of us? Come on in, everybody. And so just being able to be in a learning posture has really, really helped me in my career.
Very good.
Yeah. I was thinking, more recently, even I'll tell you a personal story, but at the beginning of this pandemic, right, I was balancing taking care of my son, right, with my job, which can be very demanding. And, these jobs are not necessarily 9 to 5. You can shut them off at 4:59. And, asking and letting people into what my life was like, I think was really important. I think so often women feel like, I got this, what can I do, right? Once we've overcome, the challenges to get to the seat at the table, right, we don't want to relinquish any of the whatever we want to call it, the honor, the pressure of being there. And so, for so many years, I would be like, making my son dinner on a conference call, getting him to bed, getting back on emails, trying to figure out what are we going to do the next day. And then I'll say at the beginning, 6 months into the pandemic, I thought I was going to just, collapse. I was like, there is just too much going on, right? We were so focused on our Internet Essentials program and low-income families that needed high-speed internet and working with all of these different communities across the country, across time zones. And I had to go to my boss and say, I have to be totally honest with you. I'm going to need more flexibility in my workday in order to get everything done and make sure that this child, who now I'm also responsible for homeschooling, I'm not expecting miracles here, and I definitely could never have been a 5th grade teacher. That's incredible in and of itself. But I'm going to need more flexibility, and I think being able to say, that I needed help in that regard, not just on, subject matter, but to be able to personally, get through a difficult time. I was incredibly overjoyed with the response that I got from my team and my boss saying, of course, we realize you're a single parent at home doing this. And that made such a huge difference. And being able to kind of change my role on the team and ask others for help in that respect was it was an obstacle that I may not be sitting here today if that had not, been able to work out. But you see how we take on so much and we personalize this, right? The work we do, we love. So everything is so personal to us that we don't want to let people down. We don't want to seem like we're dropping the ball. But, thankfully, this pandemic has dissipated to some extent. Obviously, the impact is still so widespread. But as we're able to put our kids back in school and send people to camp and, get some of those hours back and get childcare back, it's made a huge difference to be able to get back to working, the job that I have. And I think that many times people have personal issues and they're afraid to share this. They're afraid to let people in to what's going on in their lives. And I think we are more forgiving and more, caring about others than we often think.
Thank you, Jackie, for sharing that. And I have to tell you, by you asking for help, you empowered yourself. And sometimes we don't see that. We think it's a sign of weakness, but it's not. Asking for help is really empowering you. And I learned something else about you because I was a single parent with one son too. And Chanelle, I was also a teacher, but for 6th grade. So I relate.
6th graders are scarier than 5th graders.
And I realized through this last year and a half, I could never be a teacher. That's not what I was supposed to do.
I think there's going to be so much more love for teachers than ever before. But I'll just say, I think not only, Jackie, did you empower yourself, but others. I mean, I think one of the things that we can do as more senior women in spaces is to make space for other women, because there's a lot of conversations that people want to have, or things that they need that they're certainly not going to feel empowered to do. And if we can make space for it, it makes it a little easier for them. So it's great you were able to do that.
I think also just to say that when I raised that with my team, I think that all across this country, people are waking up and realizing that if we want to be a more inclusive society, we have to have serious conversations, not just at the CEO sign-off level, but really within our teams and in the offices where we work and in the places where we work, right? How can we be more inclusive? How can we really have that gender diversity that we want to see, or, other diversity that we want to see? And I think that, many of the men on the team were like, oh, that makes perfect sense. We know that you're going to do your job, but we know that you're going to need to have, accommodations to make this work. And, I think it's made our team a stronger team, quite honestly. And I think, as other things happen in our world, right, we know that we need to be a more flexible workforce and be more inclusive to be more successful.
So let's talk about some of the fabulous projects that you guys are working on. I know, Chanelle, you have the Next Gen Policy Leaders Program, and it's very diverse.
Yeah, obviously that's my baby. It's been, I've been passionate about it throughout my career, from as soon as I was officially in a position where I could be working with interns and fellows, and then coming to Google, really having an opportunity to identify multicultural emerging leaders and really just try to invest in them, in their professional development, in helping them understand issues associated with tech policy. As someone who's worked in kind of so many different roles in this ecosystem, in the NGO side, on the Capitol Hill side, in the regulatory side, and now in corporate, I really have seen how there is this tremendous pipeline of opportunity that is super underrepresented by women and people of color. And so really being able to help folks to like we talked about earlier, have access to possible career paths, possible ways to enhance the work that they're doing in their various leadership roles has been an ongoing real labor of love. And then the other thing I was just going to mention, our company, along with many, many others, made a lot of racial equity commitments, and of course, many women are women of color. And so I've been really excited about really working to help our company execute against a number of those. We are now among the group that's spending $1 billion a year with diverse and women-owned businesses, and really making sure that happens in a way that leaders around in our communities understand and can advise and guide. Really made a significant commitment to increase the diversity of our senior leadership, as you know, and really making sure that is reflective of our communities. And then, of course, just really thinking about where we're located. And this is another conversation that I think the pandemic has made even more relevant, because, folks were like, hey, if it doesn't matter as much where I'm physically located, I might make some other choices, and really just making sure that a broader set of people have access to jobs in our company and in our sector because of where we're located around the country and the world.
And Jackie, you're working on so many projects for the community, permanent broadband, your essentials program, which I do. What I like most about that, you don't do credit checks. So
I'll tell you, our company has really, this pandemic has put such a spotlight on the need for closing the digital divide and really creating digital equity. And I know this is something that every company in this space is thinking about and analyzing. But for 10 years, we've had our Internet Essentials program. I remember the first conversations I had with National Hispanic Media Coalition about the project and how you all had seen, or, the staff wanted things to change and grow. And I look 10 years later, all of those recommendations, I think we can check every single box, right? That we expanded it for seniors, we've expanded it for public housing, we've expanded it, we've, eliminated a lot of the background checks, and we've forgiven debt, and all of those things that we've done. When you get to the pandemic, right, it's put this spotlight on affordability also. So I really appreciate all the work that you've done with us on the emergency broadband benefit, which has been, one of my babies here, making sure everyone knows about it and working with coalitions across the country, and then working towards a permanent broadband benefit, right? And how we can continue to move the needle. It's not one thing that's going to solve this, right? It's going to be this real, orchestration. And I also play the viola, I'd like to say here, that understanding how all of these pieces fit together in a symphony, right? That pulling the orchestration to really close this divide, with everyone having their role and working, with as much as they can in their, area of the community, in their locality, in their church, wherever it is, really, I think makes a huge difference for people to be able to get the service they need to fulfill their lives.
And we were very fortunate, the three of us. We had a supporting family that pushed us to get an education, and education for us was everything. My grandfather had an elementary school education. My father had a high school education, and they encouraged us, all three of us, to have a college education. And my son hopefully will have his master's next year. And that's how every generation had to do better in education, because we came with nothing. And in order to be successful in this country, we don't have that network. So in order to fulfill our dreams, it's through education. And that's why the permanent broadband is so important, because every child deserves a good education. And you cannot have an education without having a good, service, a good internet service where you can do your homework. When I went to school, I had books in the library. Today, kids cannot fulfill their dreams if they don't have the equipment, an affordable broadband, access to broadband, and of course, digital literacy. So thank you both for everything that you do. And we're coming to the end, and thank you so much for sharing your journeys, for talking about your personal stories and being so transparent. And I want to end with each of you sharing about a woman in your life who either inspired you or empowered you in your journey. Jackie?
I'll go first, and I'll start with a quote that if you want something done, ask a busy woman. My mom always said that, and I think it's the truest thing. When you look out and you're like, who's going to help do something? I always look for the busiest woman because that's who gets things done. And my personal hero, this is a little out there maybe, but Gertrude Bell, who I have studied and I've read her journals my entire life. She was a British explorer who took it upon herself to go to places that she had never heard of and where they spoke languages she did not speak. But she really kind of charted many paths and did a lot of, ethnographic research in the beginning of the 1900s, late 1800s, 1900s. And is somebody who I've always admired because she didn't know what she didn't know, but it didn't stop her.
Thank you for that. Chanelle?
Yeah, my quote is kind of the end of a poem, so I hope it doesn't sound too awkward, but folks should look up Revolutionary Dreams by Nikki Giovanni. And at the end, it says, I awoke and dug that if I dreamed natural dreams of being a natural woman, doing what a woman does when she's natural, I would have a revolution. And when I came across that early in my career, it was really freeing because there is this constant sense as a woman, as a young person, trying to make a difference in the world that, I've got to figure out how I'm going to change everything, which systems am I going to take on? And I've got to be serious all the time and I've got to work all the time. And the thought that, so much of what we struggle to do when you talk about, the family, the generations of your family, part of what they wanted was sure for you to be successful, but part of what they wanted was for you to be free. And so, for me to just say, what does it look like for me to be free? Has been something that has been really powerful, not only in my life, but as I work with younger people. And the person that I was going to mention is just my mentor. She actually got arrested yesterday as one of the women protesting on Capitol Hill for voting rights. But she is a reverend and also the first Black woman to be the executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus. She has been an advocate for poor people for many, many years, and just a tremendous, tremendous leader. And I appreciate her because, mentorship is something we talk about all the time. We all probably have dozens of mentors and we are mentoring dozens of people. But then there are those people who actually, call you until you pick up the phone because they know that you need to talk. And so she's been so helpful in my life and just kind of giving me that solicited and unsolicited guidance and advice, and just being able to look at her path and the way she lives. She has found not only her success, but her freedom. So,
freedom. Well, thank you. Thank you to you both. Thank you for sharing and being so transparent and so uplifting. I adore both of you and keep up the good work, ladies. Adios.
Thanks so much, Brenda.
Hello, my name is Joanna Diaz-Sofer. Thank you for this opportunity to participate in today's National Hispanic Media Coalition Impact Summit. T-Mobile understands the importance of uplifting Hispanic voices and having conversations like these that propel our communities forward. As a country, we're just coming out of a pandemic that has disproportionately affected Black and Brown communities, and particularly women. Nearly 3 million women in the U.S. have left the workforce. Many of these women have had to choose between work and family. They are mothers of young children that have become at-home teachers, caretakers of their parents, or have been furloughed or laid off. These statistics are devastating. America's workforce is missing out on an immense wealth of invaluable talent, and that's something we cannot afford. Most of my mentors have been and continue to be women who have helped me get where I am today. That includes my mom, an immigrant from Mexico, who worked graveyard shifts when I was little, just to help us get by when times were tough. It's so important that we have strong women in our lives and our workforce, bringing each other to the table. Here at T-Mobile, we are focused on providing resources to help women re-enter the workforce. We have partnered with ReachHire to create the TechX Returnship Program that's helping to facilitate paths to leadership roles for women returning to the workforce in tech. The program provides opportunities for women who have taken a long professional career break to care for family members, raise children, or for personal reasons. We are proud to partner with NHMC, and we look forward to working together finding ways to support women across the country. Women do it all. We are the backbone of our families, our teams at work, our places of worship. We are the leaders of change and the future. Thank you to all the women at T-Mobile who have continued to support me, each other, and a special thank you to Brenda Castillo and Araceli Velasco for your leadership and continued efforts to elevate women's voices.
Thank you, Chanelle and Jackie, for sharing your experiences with us. We know it can be a tough world out there for women, especially women of color, in the white-dominated tech space, and we're so proud that you are partners in the fight for equitable resources and representation in communities of color. Also, a big thank you to T-Mobile for always supporting the National Hispanic Media Coalition and Joanna Diaz-Sofer, who is consistently advocating for the organization. Now we have our first honoree, an innovator in entertainment and diversity. She has focused on hiring inclusive talent and developed countless programs at CBS Entertainment, including co-founding CBS I Speak, a program designed to promote women empowerment and help pave a path of growth and opportunity inside and outside of the company. And since February 2018, the group has held several events, including screenings, panels, and fireside chats, including some of the strongest women voices in the industry. She's worked with nonprofit organizations such as GLAAD and the Gina Davis Institute to ensure equitable practices in the corporate space, and her community service and charity work includes the Human Rights Campaign, #SeeHer, Young Storytellers, just to name a few. And in her most recent role, she not only leads entertainment-focused diversity and inclusion initiatives across CBS Entertainment, Showtime, Media Networks, and Paramount Pictures, but she will also oversee the company's creative development programs, talent initiatives, and outreach to key stakeholders. So let's welcome a woman who truly does it all. Executive Vice President of Entertainment, Diversity, and Inclusion for the West Coast at Viacom CBS, Tiffany Smith-Anoa'i.
Hello. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate my fellow talented and dynamic honorees, MJ Rodriguez, Elizabeth Acevedo, and Meet Me at the Altar. Keep up the amazing work and fight for inclusivity within your industries. Your presence alone is beyond necessary. I also want to thank the entire team at NHMC. What you all do day in and day out is remarkable. Under the steadfast leadership of Brenda Castillo, your work in creating opportunities to support Latinx talent within the entertainment industry has never been more important than right now. It is an honor to receive the NHMC Impact Award. My passion truly lies in making an impact, and with this recognition, I feel I'm one step closer to making the impact that I want to within diversity and inclusion across our industry. I thank you so much for this recognition. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and thank you.
A big congratulations to Tiffany Smith-Anoa'i, a more than deserving individual who's a force of change within this industry. You know, this August, we will be releasing the first ever Latinx Dream Showcase. For those of you who know the group and the coalition, we have had our Latino Scene Showcase live for the past few years, but of course, due to the pandemic, we decided to shift gears and create a showcase that shows off multiple Latinx talent. We'll essentially be dropping 7 short films this August, 7 of them. Here to talk more about that experience in the program is Raiza Licea.
Hola, my name is Raiza Licea, and I am a past participant alumni of the NHMC Latinx Showcase. I was part of it a couple years ago, and it was one of the most fun experiences, and also business-wise, a great choice, because as an actor, sometimes we need to be on these showcases for people to see us and be interested in repping us, and that's exactly what happened. I did the NHMC Showcase, and I got my theatrical rep out of the first day of the showcase. Everyone at NHMC, Felicia, Brenda, Cruz, everyone on that board, like, they've all been so amazing to me, not just because I was an alumni, and as well as supporting to my comedy team and podcast, Spanish Aki Presents. And I just have mad love for them. If you have an opportunity to audition, participate, just get involved with NHMC and the Latinx Showcase, I would say do it. Dale.
Now that is a Latina going places. Y'all better watch out for her. Thank you, Raiza. Make sure to check out the Latinx Dream Showcase this August. Now let's dive into our first Fireside Chat. Today we have the National Hispanic Media Coalition's Felicia Mora with a dear friend of the organization and UCLA's very own Dr. Ana-Christina Ramón.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felicia Mora, and I am the Special Events and Programs Manager here at the National Hispanic Media Coalition. Thank you for joining us for the NHMC Virtual Impact Summit Series Fireside Chat. I am joined here today by the fabulous Dr. Ana-Christina Ramón, the Director of Research and Civic Engagement for the Division of Social Sciences on UCLA. She is a social psychologist working on social justice issues related to equity and access in higher education and the entertainment industry. Intersectionality always, right? For over 15 years. Every year, UCLA releases their Hollywood Diversity Report, which Dr. Ramón co-authors alongside Dr. Darnell Hunt. She co-edited Black Los Angeles, American Dreams and Racial Realities, and is the managing editor of LA Social Science, as well as the inaugural Latino Film Institute Scholar. It's such an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Dr. Ramón, we're here about Latinas in entertainment. How do Latinas look right now in terms of representation in front of the camera? Are there any major strides that have been happening?
Well, I'll talk about the latest data that we have, which came out just a few months ago for our 2021 report, and that looked at 2020 film. And our next report will be coming out in September that will focus on the latest numbers for television. But when you look at film, you see that there has been just stagnation for the representation of Latinas in front of the camera and also behind the camera. But in terms of your question, it's been just really disheartening to see that there's very few leads. And this is when we look at the top films at the box office. And this past year, what we did is that we added in streaming films. So even for films that were readily available on streaming, you only saw a total of 4 Latinas that were leads in those films. And then you look at just overall cast, and Latinas represent less than 3% of all the main actors in the main cast across all of those films. And so that's like a severe underrepresentation. So there hasn't been really much improvement. The numbers have just stayed really stagnant.
Yeah, so even over the years, it's just kind of been the same.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah. So only 2 women in the history of the Academy have won an Oscar for directing. Catherine Bigelow in 2010 and Chloe Zhao in 2020. This speaks to the larger problem of women lacking opportunity. There were 0 Latina directors, according to your most recent Hollywood Diversity Report. How can this extreme lack of Latina directors be fixed? Is Hollywood afraid to branch out, or something else that you have in mind?
Yeah, I mean, what our study showed is that when we looked at the budgets, there was just this severe underinvestment in films that were made by women and films that were made by people of color. So films that were made by women of color, they were just few and far between. And so then when you break that out and you look at Latinas, as you said, we didn't have Latinas that appeared in the films that we looked at. And so obviously, like there, might have been other films that just didn't make any money in the theaters or weren't also bought at any of the festivals and didn't make it on streaming. So it's not that they didn't exist, perhaps, but they just didn't make it into our study, which showed that there wasn't this investment in them, which is very necessary. And so I think that Hollywood is missing the mark because especially Latina filmmakers, bring this very unique perspective. And, as you can see with just like the recent movie that's been critically acclaimed, Zola, and that's just showing that made by a Latina, film director, it shows that there's just so much talent out there and so much potential and possibility. It just needs, the studios to really make that investment, right? And they do it all the time for white filmmakers, where they buy white male filmmakers in particular, where they buy their films, at a film festival. And these are like small, very independent films, or they're short films, and then they get a big chance to make the studio film. And they've been doing that for decades, really, for white male filmmakers. But for women of color, it's been particularly difficult. And for Latinas, you can see that they don't get those opportunities. It's very few and far between when they get those opportunities. There's a lot more of, Latino men that are getting the opportunity. It's still not, a ton of them, but it's really minimal for women. And I think the issue is they just have to, like you said, branch out, because there are women, Latinas, that are directing in television. They are getting the training, and they are ready to go with films. And so it's just, something that is really disappointing that Hollywood has not done it, because it just needs a lot more of them to really just take that chance and to give the opportunity, because they've been giving that opportunity for men for so long.
Yeah, and there's so many untapped stories because of that. Like, you're really missing out on a whole demographic and perspective, and you're repeating the same stories over and over again. There's only so many stories.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it doesn't even have to be like a film that's about Latinas. Latinas can create films about anything, right? And so, but we just don't get their perspective.
Yeah, and we just come from all over the world. So you're just going to get an array of stories. And I love learning about different cultures. And I'm sure that that's the same for everybody else. Like, once you see this, revolutionary, wow, like this whole new concept coming out, why aren't we doing more of this? So, and then to your point with the funding, I think that's a huge thing. Like, I was looking at the report as well on that end, and the lack of funding that goes into people of color films just in general is just astonishing. And then some of those films are really successful. So that just goes to show that if they were given more money, given more of an opportunity, it could have been even better. You can get more out of it. It's just
yeah, I think you get a bigger audience when you put in more money into the budget, right? So there's a higher production value that the audience, can recognize. The audience is very savvy. And so they know when a film, that needs it has that high production value, right? So sometimes there's more intimate films that might not need it, but, the investment is there. And for people, when as consumers, they know what it means in terms of like how valued that film has been, that project has been at the studio level.
Yeah. So with your knowledge, your research, your connections and experience, what are some of the solutions that advocacy groups like NHMC and entertainment entities can do to uplift Latinas and women? I know we're not going to have all the answers, be able to fix the problems, but what is something that we can do?
Well, I think that at this juncture, in order to get more of those projects greenlighted, you really need more women of color in the executive suites. And obviously, along with that, you need more Latinas, right? And so you need them to be hired into these positions of power and authority in order to greenlight those projects. But you can't just hire them and think, oh, okay, we're good to go, and that's all you need to do. You need to also give them that the power and the authority, right? And then you need to also give them the environment in order for them to thrive. So it's a really, it has to be a structural change that has to take place and from top to bottom. But the only way that you're going to see sustainable progress and change into the future is by hiring more women of color in those really key positions that are going to then foster and really promote these different types of projects that are by filmmakers of color, right, and women of color. And so we just need to have the studios really make a commitment for that and be held accountable. So they can't just say that, yes, that they're for diversity. They actually have to strategize and make the plans to completely change their system.
Yeah. And I think I want to emphasize that they need to allow them to make decisions and not only put them in, because they can hire anybody and then, oh, well, they didn't work out. They weren't able to do, X, Y, and Z and accomplish. They weren't able to fix our whole diversity problem, right? And make it go away. That's kind of what falls on the shoulders of women or just people of color in general that come into those positions. But giving them the power to make the decisions is also key in that, because it's just without that, what are they going to do? They're kind of like a little pawn in a way. And it's like, just again, playing the diversity card.
Exactly. It can't be performative diversity. It has to be like real inclusion, right? And that's what I was saying about like the culture, changing the culture is key. And that requires a lot of internal analysis, which a lot of companies, they struggle with. They don't want to have to deal with that, right? And so they want to maintain the status quo. And so even when they make proclamations that they're going to change, it's difficult, I think, for them to really see that they need to make structural changes in their company. And so it's really like something that then falls on just, anybody that is a consumer, anybody that is working, to really just keep pushing for that, demanding the change and telling the studios that if they don't do that, then, they're going to lose consumers, right? And so it's just something, though, that everyone can be a part of, because for entertainment, we're all part of this structure. Almost everyone consumes entertainment at some level in some way. And so everyone has a voice, and with social media and with technology these days, you can be more active and making sure that your voice is heard, right? And it doesn't take as much effort. And so it's really something that everyone can contribute to demanding that change. And you demand it also, obviously, with your pocketbook, right? And what you watch and what you view. And so it's really important that people feel that power that they have, because they do have it, and to be more vocal about it.
Yeah, just a friendly reminder for everyone watching. Latinx are 24% of moviegoers, and that translates to buying power. So that's a quarter. We have such a huge impact on this industry. So just friendly reminder of that. And our time is up. I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk with NHMC today about something that really affects all of us. Our community is very fortunate to have you in the position you are in. Thank you for everything you do for Latinx, for women, for entertainment. Not only do you believe in diversity and representation, you live it every day, and that is authentically changing academia and the industry. So let's end by letting the viewers know how they can keep up with your work at UCLA. Where can they find you?
So you can download all of our reports on socialsciences.ucla.edu, and you can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Ana-Christina.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ana-Christina Ramón. Until next time. Thank
you. Bye.
Thank you, Felicia and Dr. Ramón, for this conversation on Latinx women representation, something I look forward to seeing more of when I go to the movies and watch TV. So big shout out to all the content creators pushing for this change, and Dr. Ramón for giving us those demographics of what is happening so we can recognize what we can do. Speaking of making change, our next honoree is a group of individuals putting a twist on the genre that epitomizes the early 2010s pop punk, a typically white-dominated space for those fans of Warped Tour era punk. These Black Latina women are claiming their space in a new era of music that has defined the millennial generation and now Gen Z. After meeting online, get this, the band formed and went on to perform, eventually inking a deal with Fueled by Ramen. Rolling Stone hailed them as one of 2021's most exciting new rock acts. Vulture predicted Meet Me at the Altar, making a convincing case that the future of pop punk is Black, Latina, and female. Meanwhile, Nylon summed it all up, simply stating, Meet Me at the Altar is the future of pop punk. If high energy, hard-hitting music from a women of color band is what I have to look forward to, then I'm all in. Here on behalf of Edith Johnson and Thea Campbell is Meet Me at the Altar's drummer, Ada Juarez.
Hi, I'm Ada Juarez from Meet Me at the Altar. And on behalf of the band and with Hispanic pride, I am honored to accept the Impact Award from the National Hispanic Media Coalition. As a band, we thrive to inspire all women, especially women of color. And as teens, it was difficult to stay motivated in a scene where there was no one who looked like us or experienced the same hardships that we did. It's an indescribable feeling knowing that we're breaking that cycle by being the representation that we didn't have, but we definitely deserved. And so this award is dedicated to every person of color with a dream. Thank you.
So eloquently said, Ada. Congratulations, Meet Me at the Altar, a group of pretty cool teenagers already making a mark in music. They will be releasing their 2021 EP, Model Citizen, on August 13th. And now a word from the ladies of the National Hispanic Media Coalition.
Hi everyone, I'm Felicia Mora, and a woman who really inspires me is Comandante Ramona of the Zapatista Army, because it's really great to see Indigenous women fighting to take their land back.
Hi, my name is Araceli Velasco, and a woman that has always inspired me is Ms. Rebecca Solomon from LA High. She is the one that taught me about social justice and inspired me to be a social justice advocate for the rest of my life.
Hi, my name is Georgina Zamora, and a woman who inspires me is Chloe Zhao. I just love seeing women of color succeed, especially in a predominantly male-dominated industry. And as a Marvel fan, I'm really looking forward to seeing her new movie, The Eternals.
Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Miche Cardenas, and a woman who inspires me is Professor Shelley Stamp of UC Santa Cruz in the Film and Digital Media Department. I greatly admire her work with feminism and intersectionality within film studies.
Truly inspiring to see young women recognize the women that have come before them. With leaders like Araceli, Felicia, Georgina, and Hannah, we know the future is in great hands. We now have our second panel, continuing the theme of women changing industries, women of influence in entertainment. And we have three guests who will join Brenda Castillo, including Erika, who has worked in several industry capacities and has most recently taken on the role of president of production for Extracurricular, working with Malala Yousafzai to provide scripted and unscripted film and TV content in an exclusive overall deal with Apple. And Tanya Saracho, who just launched the Ojalá Ignition Lab to empower Latinx voices as part of her overall deal with Universal Content Partners. And will have her featured directorial debut with Mala Hierba. We also have Alexis Garcia, a writer, director, and supervising producer at BuzzFeed's Pero Like, as well as the creator and showrunner of the award-winning series Mi Quinceañera Come True, who also happens to be an NHMC Writers Program alum. Welcome, Erika, Tanya, and Alexis.
Thank you, Michelle, for being such a fabulous host. I'm here with three women of influence in entertainment, Erika, Tanya, and Alexis. I am so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
All three of you are so talented, creative, business savvy, and not afraid for others to hear your voice. As I mentioned earlier in this program, women sometimes cannot wait for others to empower them, but must create their own empowerment sometimes. How do you feel about this statement, and how have you empowered yourselves? Just jump right in, Erika.
Well, I mean, I think, yes, I have since I was little. I think that you definitely see the need for women to step in and empower themselves. And for me, as a Cuban girl in the South, part of that was just being other and understanding that I was going to be the only kid in full, like, John Bonet hair and makeup for picture day. And then just owning it and realizing that my eyebrows looked way better than theirs. But yeah, I think, you know, especially in this industry, a lot of what has gotten me through has been women lifting me up and then lifting up other women. And I think it's amazing just looking at from when I started out here in 2002 to where we are now. Just look at this panel of ladies here. It's incredible and inspiring. And I absolutely think that it's up to us to lift up the next generation and keep lifting up other women.
Yeah, my career, I think, has been a series of ladder pull-ups by other women. So they pulled me up, and backdoor opening to come through. So like that's something I try to do. And sometimes I've been able to come through the front door, but not often. And it's been, you know, let's get you in because of this program, and let's get you like in the theater, especially. I only got commissions in the theater if it was like the diversity something, like they want you to do a Latina thing only or whatever. I'm in here, I'm in the castle, but it was like some kind of backdoor opening, but almost always a woman. Same thing with the ladder being pulled up. And so now it's imperative that I do the same thing, you know, because I can track the markers of like, that was Caroline Eves, you know, that was Marta Fernandez, that was, you know, so like it's like it's all populated with these badass chingonas that sometimes didn't even know that what they did was progress for me.
I mean, truly, I have the same experience in that, you know, my thinking back to my childhood and my mom and my grandmother and all of my aunts being the ones that would empower me to be myself and you know, nurture my talents. I grew up in a household of all brothers, and it's very male centric in that way. And so I like so appreciated any like female guidance. And then when it came to my career, the same exact thing as Tanya and Erika mentioned, is like the people who are opening doors for me have been women, and women like Tanya, who gave me my first writing job, and like people who are, yeah, I think like for me specifically too, I feel the responsibility to help that next generation. And yeah, we have to continue to help each other up, because only we understand the experience of moving as women through the world. So yeah, it's female empowerment starts and ends with women.
And it's wherever you are in your career, because only lately did I feel, oh, I'm in a position of power. I never feel people know I'm very insecure. I walk through the world very insecure, but that's never going to change. That's just I have to accept it. At first I was like, what is this? Is this ever going to go away? It's not, but now I know. But wherever you are in your career, there's someone you can pull up, a door you can open. It feels right now that I'm like in a place where I can open a lot of doors, and it's as many as before. It's always relative is what I'm saying. You know, there's always someone above you that you're going to have to sort of ask for entry, and someone you can, you know, allow for entry. So like, it doesn't matter what point in the career. I feel like there's always like, sometimes it's, you know, when you're starting out, but you have a little access, it's just a recommendation or a direct, like directional point. Like, why don't you try her as an assistant, or why don't you try who knows how it is, but it's like gate opening can happen in so many ways, you know, and you're always empowered to do it. It's relative.
You know, we all have diverse voices, and it's so important, but tell me, why is it so important for Latinas to have their own voice, to tell their own stories?
I can jump on that one. I think the larger mainstream community is starting to understand that Latinidad is not a monolith. Even though, you know, we all identify as Latinx, Latine, Latinos, Latina, whatever word you prefer to use, our specific cultural backgrounds are, you know, there are micro identities within this, and we need to hear each other's stories and encourage that diversity so that the wider world understands that, wow, there's so many different colors and shapes and textures to Latinidad, and empowering women to use their voices is, I think, like, especially for this generation, because one thing we do have in common is machismo being very prevalent in all of our countries, and women's voices have been silenced for so many generations, and there's been a liberation of these voices within, you know, the last 100 years or less, especially for Latinas in Hollywood specifically. So I'm just like so excited for the time that we're living, that we are actually being empowered to tell our stories and just lend that color to you know, the diverse array of experiences within.
What you're saying is so important, Alexis, because, you know, I attend a lot of meetings, and sometimes, well, we have women who are in the room writing, and, you know, they're white women, and sometimes the white males think, well, we have women, they can represent all of you, but they can't, because there's so many layers. And even hiring Latina writers, there's so much diversity within the Latino culture, you know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tanya, I'm sorry.
I want to, yes, and what you were saying, Alexis, but and stand under the umbrella that is the diaspora of Latinidad. And I know we're deconstructing that term right now, and I think it's right to deconstruct it, but I am getting under the umbrella and dealing with the term Latinidad. We have been missing from the narrative for 120 years that Hollywood has been, and that is damaging in a catastrophic way, because, and whatever, you can read my politics, the lack of access to a perception of us was made the last 4 years possible. And that's, and the fact that we have such, you know, like the archetypes and stereotypes that are out there about us are so few and so limited and two-dimensional. And it's also because Hollywood, unfortunately, is important because it exports the perception of us to the world too. So people in India, people, you know, in South Africa, people in England have a perception of us through, unfortunately, Hollywood. And when you've been missing from it and you only see us as maids or cartel narratives and stuff, you're like, oh, that's what they are, you know, when it's like we're almost the whole these two continents, you know. So it's really, really dangerous to have been kept away from the narrative and for other voices of the dominant culture to have handled our you know, narrative. And that is because then we as Latinas absorb that, consume their version of ourselves, and it becomes like this Monsanto, like really bad, toxic thing. Because so I am that, I'm only that, and so it fucks with your identity. Sorry, it messes with your identity, you know, because entertainment and Hollywood and film and television, theater, all of it, like it reflects culture, and when that's what's being reflected, it is a cancer. So it to me, it's more than, it's like dire. And because I see the numbers, and it seems like we are getting a little bit, and you know, there are creators like Gloria Calderon-Kellett, they're allowing me to have some access, you know, and you can think, oh, shit is getting better, but you look at the numbers, and Latinas are not even a number. When of creators, when it comes to showrunners, when, you know, in the great scope of Hollywood with capital H. So there's a feeling that we're here and there, but we still don't have access. I really don't think so. You know, like we're I don't even know if we're at the table, but they invited us to the dinner party, but I don't know where
we're in those chairs behind the table in the conference room. Yeah. Brenda knows, she's seen me in those chairs.
Do you remember that? You remember that, Erika?
No, for your meeting, they'd always put me in the table. just for that meeting. You know, what I would add to that, and completely agree with everything, I think twofold. Right now, one of the things that has been a very sobering reminder is watching what's going on in Cuba and seeing the lack of a voice that those people have, specifically the women. And knowing that we on this side of the water have the chance to tell those stories and to humanize people. And I think, you know, we've all, I'm sure, been pitched our fair share of either narcos or maids, or you know, it's like cocaine or bust. And I think being able to humanize those stories is really important, because when you have, and that's one of the things that I'm looking to do right now at my new company, is like, you know, Harold and Kumar meant so much because it normalized these men of color. And I feel like, you know, Plan B was a very exciting movie because of the fact that it wasn't just, there were no tamales involved in the making of the film, right? And I think that, you know, the more that we can humanize our stories, the more our situation becomes specific and relatable at the same time. And I really think that's such an important part of it right now, is humanizing those stories and showing how many different facets of our culture there is.
We just have to get those gatekeepers to agree with us and support those stories. That's where we're like, we got them. We got the talent. We got the stories. Now, will you support those stories? You know, that's like, I feel like that's the moment.
You know,
that's why I switched jobs. I was a buyer, and, you know, I was happy being a buyer, but what would happen is things came to me, I would buy them at a smaller level. And then they, you know, I'd shoot a lot of pilots that didn't turn into series, right? Mm-hmm. And because they would go up all the way to Mickey Mouse, and they would go up all the way to wherever they were going. And what I realized about being a producer was what that enabled me to do with taking it to the right people, because I felt like as a buyer, I was buying the things I loved, but that might not make it all the way up. Mm-hmm. And as a producer, I can look for the right homes and partner with the right people to help up those odds. But that, yes, the gatekeeper thing is absolutely a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm. So Erika, I know I've known you since you were at NBC Entertainment, then ABC Entertainment, Berlanti Productions.
NHMC has been a constant in my career.
I know. And thank you for your support, really. And now you're in this new position at Extracurricular, which has an exclusive overall deal with Apple. I mean, I'm just so proud of you, and I've seen you grow, and you know, you are in a position of influence. So tell us about this exciting new adventure.
Well, first of all, I want to shout out to Tanya, who also has an amazing overall, and I'm super excited about. Let's give UTA a shout out, by the way, for lifting up ladies of color. You know, yeah, so I'm partnered with Malala Yousafzai. We have an overall at Apple to do features, TV, scripted, unscripted, and animation. So it's like the whole gamut. And our goal is to really, I know when I got the call about Malala, I was like, oh guys, I'm not like the heavy, bleak documentarian person. And they're like, no, her favorite show is Rick and Morty. And it was a reminder, right? Like, she is 24 and she's awesome and she's super funny. And, you know, we would love to, we're talking about the comps we're talking about are Palm Springs. The comps we're talking about are The Good Place, right? Like, we want to do fun things that, yes, you will hopefully it'll open your hearts and your minds. And education is very important to us as a company and to Malala as a person. So hopefully you'll learn something too. But we want to have fun, and we don't want to be bleak. We want to give hope. And that's the approach we've been taking. So we're very fresh. This is, you know, day 8 of the job, but I know I had a different title when I signed on for this session, but it's really exciting and very hopeful to see the kinds of stuff we're doing. And we very much are targeting things by and for women of color. And that's to be able, like, you know, our whole department right now is women of color. And it's like, what? I'm not the only person in the room, and I'm pale, right? So you don't notice me in the room anyway. And it's been really nice to feel that support and to be able to, today I was like hardcore chasing down a book that I couldn't buy at another place I worked. So it's exciting.
Oh, how exciting. Erika, I mean, when you first told me about it, you hadn't announced it. You told me you have to keep it.
You got the secret.
It was so hard to keep it a secret, but I'm just so proud of you and so excited because you're going to make some powerful changes. And Tanya, I mean, you're going to make your feature directorial debut. Yes. Tell us how that came about.
Accidentally, but I think this woman, Dawn Olmsted, she was at UCP, where is my TV home right now, and she gave me this grown-up overall, and then she went to Anonymous, and then I went to meet with her just to be like, "Hi, you left," and then I didn't pitch anything. They just read my play. The next week, they had offered me, "Do you want to direct?" Because I did talk. "Oh, I want to direct my play one day." It was like a general, and then now I'm directing my play, Mala Hierba. So, but it's something that I've been like decretando y rezando and brujeriando about. So it just became manifest in that way. But it's about a woman seeing you in my TV world. And then it was like this Ada Madrina that like went here and then she went here. And then now they opened both those worlds, so that it was really magical. So that's exciting. But then there's stuff we're doing with my, like I said, real nice grown up overall at UCP, that where they're putting their money where their mouth is. Was my favorite thing there is my incubator, that we're about to launch. It's launched. It's just that we're in the middle of getting all this submissions and stuff. And that is one of a kind, because we're paying above scale for 5 fellows to write a TV pilot. Like it's not just an honorarium or just a name on a list. It's real money. And 26 weeks with me in a writer's group, which Alexis knows because you were in a writer's group for like with some Vida people. The safety of a writer's group and the safety of an all Latina writer's group is very specific, because like, the no need to code switch, no need to defend culture. Like it's so, so that is going to be, it's my favorite thing. And then we're also like, like you pursuing things. I'm, producing things. I'm trying to write these things, expand our notion of Latinidad, or just complicated, a little bit like Vida, but like to what's next, this next thing I'm doing. I want to shoot 2 Mexicans in London. Why not? Let's center us in the world stage. We never get centered in the world stage. And we go around the world, but it was, that comes from I spent 5 months of the pandemic in London. And like the first day that I got there, the Uber driver was like, "What do they speak in Mexico?" I was like, "Wait, what?" And then like people would try to connect with me and be like, "I've been to Bogota." And you're like, "Wait, so that really there's less than 5,500 Mexicans in all of UK." And I was like, okay, this is a great experiment of identity when you get stripped, because here the thing is that there's a flawed perception of us, right? It's a perception, but it's flawed. But over there, there's like nothing. It's like, and it's a exercise. So I want to like do those kind of experiments with Ojalá is my production company, like just complicate us, and then it's like support voices. That's that gate opening thing that I'm talking about. So I'm super excited at my place at UCP. They really have supported us. They gave me an executive too. Like you get to be, Christine Davila, who's my wifa, is mi wifa now. Like it's just exciting. And right now it's a 5 Latina company. Ojalá, it's really, it's exciting. We just, this week got a casita for offices in Hollywood. So we're painting and doing all that. Yeah. Cuando quieran, cuando gusten, come, we'll have like, mezcal or something.
I would love to. And Alexis, you're the queen of digital media. Your success with BuzzFeed's Pero Like, where you have honed an experience in Latinx audiences and storytelling across multiple platforms. 54 million monthly global reach, 6.1 million followers across socials. Tell me about your success and your strategic measures that you took to enter into this space.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I love hearing Erika and Tanya's stories. They're so inspiring. And I'm like, yes, I want to continue to work with them and just see people that I know in my life rise to positions to be able to greenlight projects for all of the people that we know that are so talented and have so many stories to tell. But yeah, but I actually started as an NHMC fellow, and Erika was one of the mentors for my class here. And after I finished the program, I realized very quickly that I also wanted to learn to direct. And I got an assistant job with a TV director named Melissa Shelton. And I worked with her for 2.5 years. She had just been nominated for an Emmy. She was the first African-American female to be nominated for an Emmy. So we worked on every TV show under the sun. And during that time, I realized, I learned how to direct because I couldn't afford to go to grad school. And after that, there's no bridge or in order to get that job of being staffed as a writer, or to be staffed as or to be a director in TV is you need to direct your own stuff. You need to write your own stuff. So I wrote and directed a short film, and I decided I was like, I want to go to digital because of the authorship that I would have over my content. I didn't want to be writing for someone else's voice at that time. I was very stubborn in my 20s. I was like, I want to write my own stuff. And digital lent me that opportunity to be the author of my own content and immediately engage with the audience. And so I worked at Univision and for Flama, which was their original bilingual platform. And that is where I started to delve into my own Latinidad very expressly and learn how to communicate with this audience that was so hungry for our content. We'd never seen ourselves on the internet. We'd never seen ourselves really in television, the way that we were being authentically portrayed online, because all of the creations that were posted online were actually by Latina individuals. So that was really exciting to me. And I continued my journey at Perolike. I've been at Perolike 4 years now, and I oversee the brand and the team of producers that work there. And we know that we have a responsibility to the community and to be a voice in the community, because there are so few Latinx specific brands that do that. I think when you think of Telemundo and Univision, it's very limited in the way that they portray the community and the way that they are able to showcase the diversity in the community, and online we're able to do so much more. So I think it's definitely been a challenge, but seeing the numbers and the response to our content, seeing a video get 24 million views, we're able to take that data to brands and to other companies and be like, look, the audience is here. We have a proven, proof of concept, proof of product. And I feel like that's opening doors all over the place, because data doesn't lie. You can look at numbers and those numbers don't lie. Well, there are 60 million Latinos in the US. Why is it so hard to conceive that people would be wanting to consume this kind of content? And so I think that, working at Perolike has definitely been very encouraging in that way, that we are showing that there's an audience here that is hungry for this kind of content. And yeah, we have the ability to respond really quickly to trending items and things that are happening in the community that I think there aren't many brands doing it. Perolike's the biggest Latinx digital media brand on the internet right now. And so it's how is that possible? We need so much more representation, but I'm excited to be, doing the work that we're doing and continuing to pass the torch to the next generation of digital storytellers, because it is, speaking of gatekeeping, it's there are so many gatekeepers to the industry, but digital is you can put your own video online. You can, if you have a voice and something to say, you can do it yourself and you can build your own audience. And there is an opportunity at, BuzzFeed, for example, and all these other digital media companies where you can, as a young person, get into the industry and use it to continue to build your career into telling longer form stories, which is ultimately what I want to be doing too. I just want to tell longer form stories because we have so many stories to tell.
Alexis, your audience is young, and there's many young women, Latinas out there watching right now. So this is to all of you who are working towards getting into entertainment. What advice do you have for these young women?
I'm muted. I have a very old dog who's like very old and a little senile, and so he barks a lot. So apologies to all the young women watching who are about to hear my dog bark. But I think that first and foremost, figure out what you're trying to say. I think that a lot of times people want to be writers, or they want to be directors, or they want to be something creative, but they're more obsessed with the idea of it than what they're trying to say. I think it's so important to understand what themes resonate with you, what lessons you want to teach, what stories from your own life you want to share. Because I think knowing what your point of view is and what you're trying to say is really critical to getting across to that next step, whether it's selling something or getting staffed. I also think it's community and finding those people around you who will support you. One of the things I'm famous for that, Brenda and Alexis can say is I will have a mentoring session with almost anybody. And there are programs, I'm so excited that Tanya's starting one, but finding those fellowships, and it sucks that there's a lot of gateways to go through, but the good news is those gateways are only getting better. And the fact that Tanya has one is awesome. I think the Sundance workshop is amazing. Obviously, NHMC has been killing it for years with and Jeff is the sweetest and the best. And so yeah, my advice is to just really know what you're trying to say, and then find those people who are going to lift you up, who believe in what you're trying to say.
Tanya, we can't hear you.
I'm muted now. I also want to say that, they're going to tell you no.
Mm-hmm.
One example, do you know NHMC? You told me no. I applied. I did not make it. Just so we know that it doesn't, you just keep trying, because now I'm sitting here with y'all. But got told
Tanya,
no.
I've been wanting to talk to you about that for so long.
But it's so good.
Let me tell you something. Let me share with you something personally. So when I feel like things happen because they're meant to be, you got to figure that out. So I'm born and raised in Boyle Heights, East LA. When it was time for me to apply for college, we couldn't afford it. So I went to East LA College for 2 years, and then I was going to transfer. So my college of choice was Cal State LA. And somebody told me to apply. My friends at East LA College were applying to USC. Can you believe it that I did not get into Cal State LA? And because of that, I didn't have a choice. If I wanted to go to college, I had to say yes to USC. And I'm going to tell you, if I had the choice, I would have picked Cal State LA because of the money, because I couldn't afford USC. I was going to have to work full time and go to school full time. And that wasn't where I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be put into a campus where I felt uncomfortable, that I didn't see me, because I was going to learn and grow from being uncomfortable. And I would have picked Cal State LA because that's my raza. I would have felt comfortable there. So at first I was insulted. Why wouldn't I get? My sister went there. What's wrong with me? I had a 3.9 GPA. It didn't make sense. But you know what? The universe aligned it. It makes sense now. I wouldn't be right now in this position talking to you guys if I was not challenged by folks at USC, by other students. So
absolutely. It's all,
I adore you sharing that story, but I know there was a reason why.
Absolutely.
Look at where you're at and the empowerment that you're giving.
But also the no's are as important as the yeses.
Yes.
So just that's don't be toppled by a no. Man, this is an industry of no's. Life is no's.
Yes.
And you just don't get toppled. Also, and to sort of piggyback off Erika, what she was saying, but more than anything, don't think of the end product or the effect it's going to have in an audience. Figure out exactly what you're saying, what you want to say, if it's organic, holistic to you, and if it's undeniable, like an undeniable thing you want to say, but don't edit as you go. Don't do it for the effect. Do it for the story. And that's really, because we're very product, oriented and not process. And the things that we receive with oh my God, that the mastery of that is stuff that was worried about process and not how is it going to be received. So that's also my yes-anding to Erika's advice.
And Alexis, after you give yours, I have a great rejection story that I want to share too that I think is super helpful.
Yes, and mine is going to be quick because I think, and it relates to both Tanya and Erika's too. And it's just don't give up. I think the road is long. You're not gonna have overnight success. You see Tanya have with this amazing overall deal, but it didn't come overnight. This is years and years of work that she's put in, that we've all put in to get where we are. And it's it's just the nature of like building a career, so, and also as Latinas, you need to put your blinders on because you're going to see some of your gringo friends perhaps getting further ahead in their career a lot faster than you are, and that's gonna impact you in a way. But it's like, just stick to your path and know that trust with a little bit, with some faith, lighting those candles, saying those prayers, putting in the work, you're gonna get, that doors are gonna open and you're gonna get where you're trying to go.
Erika.
Absolutely. So what I was going to say, the rejection story is, so I went a weird route in LA where I came out here to be a screenwriter and went to grad school and got some awards, and then realized that being a producer and being an executive was a job. And I was the other way around of most people. I was like, I want to be a suit. I want to do that. And NBC at the time had this amazing program that was a junior executive program. And I applied and I made it round after round after round. And I, at the time, was a post coordinator at Fox Searchlight. So I was not really part of the television business. And I made it to the very last round where I was supposed to meet with 2 female executives and 1 male executive. And I met the 2 women. And then I got a call from NBC HR saying that my meeting with the second woman went so poorly that they were going to take back the meeting with the other guy because there was no point, that there was no way I could redeem myself. Now, and by the way, I didn't like murder a dog in the meeting. I didn't like say something awful. And so I was like, okay, well, this is life. I'm just going to go back to post and trying to write, and that's okay. And I get a call from an amazing man who I know Alexis knows, and Ted Frank, who was an incredible, who still is an incredible, and but Ted was an executive at NBC, and he said, look, a lot of us really liked you, and we know you didn't get into this program, but we want to create a job for you. And it was the job starting diversity stuff at NBC, and I eventually created Writers on the Verge and got to do a lot of stuff. And so I will admit that probably like 6 months into the job, because it was bugging me and I always felt like that reject, and I'm like, oh, well, they hired me because I'm diverse and now I'm doing the diversity stuff. And so a few months in, I was like, hey, so out of curiosity, what did I do that was so awful? And he let me know that this very powerful woman had decided that I did not look like I could ever be the president of a network. And the reason I was rejected was simply because I did not look like what she thought an executive should look like. And he said that that was a big part of why they hired me, was because they were so mad at this woman for doing that. But that was a very, very high-powered woman who still exists today. And you know what, though? I got to create so many careers. And instead of being like a bullshit junior executive in a division where nobody listened to me, I got to create a writing program. And I got to really lift up voices. And so that rejection, while at the time I was like, damn, she said I was too ugly to be an executive. But what that turned into was the most fulfilling aspect of my career and what has been ultimately my calling card and what I do as a producer and as an executive. So I am very grateful that I was not exactly what she was looking for.
That woman has body dysmorphia, I bet, like has like not a happy life. Anyway.
We can talk offline.
Well, listen, you guys are beautiful inside and out. I so admire you. You're so strong, ambitious, courageous. I mean, in ending, I think what I would like to share is if each of you can tell us about a woman in your life who inspired or empowered you in your journey. Just jump right in.
Marta Fernandez. I always talk about her, but I would not be here at this moment of my life without her. She handed me the reins of Vida. I was only here 3 years before she handed me the keys with no babysitter. no babysitter. That's like rare. And also never, ever, she just yes and everything. Never, ever said no to all Latina writers room, all Latina directors, like all that stuff that actually people around me were being like, why are you whatever they were saying. She just said yes. And I think, the Z at the end of her last name has everything to do with it too,
Wow. Alexis?
I'm going to say Tanya, honestly. She's such an inspiring woman in my life. Always makes time whenever I've reached out to her for advice. Is just such a generous creative. I learned so much being in her writer's room. I'm just like so grateful to have you in my realm. You are truly a blessing to me.
Oh, Alexis, you're a blessing to me.
Really sweet. I can't top that.
Yeah.
I think, I was actually going to bring up two women in Cheat, but, the first one I was going to say is Sami Falvey, who now runs Imagine. When she was running ABC, she took a leap of faith in me. I was an executive at the Sci-Fi Channel, and she brought me over, and I had to decide between being a VP at ABC Comedy and an SVP at another job. And obviously from my career track, I needed to hit SVP at a certain age. And, Sami was like, look, the way Disney works, I can't give you the title, but I can promise you'll be happy. And you have to decide if you'd rather have an extra letter or be happy. And that advice has really changed my perspective in general in life, because it reminded me that, like, who cares, right? Like, it was, and I was happy, and I'm so glad I didn't take that other job. And Sami was such an incredible boss and such a champion of women and women of color. And so I'm really grateful for her. And then the other person I was going to say, which is cheesy, but my current boss, Malala, because I have been told, and I think a lot of us have been told, and that's why Mark, that means so much to you, and why Tanya means so much to you. You keep getting told you'll get there, right? Like, they're like, if you get out there a little more, you're just not, people don't know who you are enough yet. And so when Malala took a chance for me to run her company, and, to have someone who had faith in me, and someone who is so fearless. I mean, she's not scared of anything. And for her to not be afraid to take a chance was really exciting and inspirational. And honestly, the only 24-year-old I would ever volunteer to work for.
Malala's an inspiration to us all.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, Erika, Tanya, Alexis, thank you so much for supporting the National Hispanic Media Coalition. You're supporting us by your presence, by sharing your advice, by being so transparent. I really do appreciate it. And I'm just so proud of all three of you. I adore you. Big virtual hug. Gracias.
Thank you. You are a hero too. You empower women constantly. Thank you.
Thank you, sweeties. Bye-bye. Adios.
Bye. Good luck out there.
Saludos a todos y a todas. My name is Ismira Santiago Michael, and I am the Director of Corporate Social Responsibility and Foundation Relations at Univision Communications. I want to thank the team at NHMC for the opportunity of our continued partnership, and I'm honored to be able to speak on behalf of Univision today, especially as your summit is focused on educating, inspiring, encouraging, and empowering women. Univision understands the importance of elevating women's voices. Our priorities are very closely aligned to the National Hispanic Media Coalition's mission, and we aim to provide asset-based storytelling, visibility, and representation to our communities. On a more personal note, this is not a love speech. This is a thank you for the values our abuelitas instilled in us. And thank you to all the mothers, because I stand on the shoulders of women like mine. To the civil rights and equity organizations like NHMC that work tirelessly on eliminating gender and racial discrimination toward the Latino community. You are the change makers. Let's break boundaries and set new standards. Lead with conviction, because progress for women and people who identify as women is progress for all of us. We are the voices, and we should continue to journey together. And to NHMC, I look forward to our continued collaboration. Muchas gracias y un abrazo fuerte.
What a great discussion. I'm excited for the future of entertainment. Thank you so much, ladies, for your incredible insight and time. In the realm of entertainment, we have our next honoree, the author of the New York Times best-selling book, The Poet X. which won the National Book Award for Young People's Literature, the Michael L. Prince Award, the Pura Belpri Award, the Carnegie Medal, the Boston Globe Horn Book Award, and the Walter Award. She is also the author of The Fire on High, named a Best Book of the Year by the New York Public Library, NPR, Publishers Weekly, and School Library Journal. Her 2020 book clap, When You Land, which was a Boston Globe, Horn Book, Honor Book, and Kirkus finalist, has been acquired by Bruna Papandrea's Made Up Stories to be developed into a television series. So let's welcome this proud Dominican author, Elizabeth Acevedo.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Acevedo, and I am so honored to be receiving the Impact Award from the National Hispanic Media Coalition. It means so much to me. Growing up as a young person of Dominican descent in New York City, a proud Dominicana de pura cepa, it was so beautiful to be around storytellers, my mother, my grandfather, my father. And yet as a voracious reader, it was lacking at that time in terms of the literature that I felt like represented me. And so it is my absolute honor to be writing stories for Latinx young people and Latinx adults and anyone who wants to learn more about, you know, Dominican culture from my particular lens. And I am completely blown away that the work that I was doing on the low, on the train, on my way to grad school, on my way to teaching, on all of these adventures, the writing that I was scribbling in my notes app and in my notebooks has resonated with so many people to the point where I could receive an achievement like this one. Thank you again. I am completely honored, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Congratulations once again, Elizabeth Acevedo. I know women of color are very hard to come by in any genre of literature, so it's truly a breath of fresh air to see any Latina, especially one like yourself, making huge strides, really changing how women are perceived. I know you have many more stories to tell, so keep writing those award-winning books. We know women are a true force in any industry. And today we have another fireside chat with a nonprofit organization whose mission aligns with the National Hispanic Media Coalition's. Joining us is the Director of Programs at Women in Film Los Angeles. She co-founded Insight, a WIF community for women of color in entertainment in 2018. She previously produced impact campaigns with Active Voice, including those for Food Inc., Welcome to Shelbyville, Gideon's Army, and Kids for Cash, and was a special project advisor on the WIF-supported documentary Seeking Asian Female. Let's welcome back Felicia Mora of the Coalition for a fireside chat with Maikiko James.
Hello, everyone. I am here with the Director of Programs at Women in Film. For those of you who aren't familiar with Women in Film Los Angeles, WIF for short, they are a nonprofit organization advocating for and advancing the careers of women working in the screen industries to achieve parity and transform culture. I love this mission statement, by the way, powerful and to the point. I know you're gearing up for an event, so thank you for taking some valuable time to join us. Welcome, Maikiko James.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm very excited to meet you and have this conversation. Women need advocates and resources to create films. I know you have a lot of programming at WIF. Can you briefly, go over some of the programming with us?
Sure. Yeah, we have many things going on. Even in our current situation, we had to make a pretty hard pivot into the virtual space, as everyone did over the last year and a half. But we continue to offer our programs both for public and educational purposes, as well as for specific career purposes for women across the industry. So it's film, television, digital media, and across various professional disciplines, directors, writers, writers, producers. Producers are getting a lot of our attention this year, actually. So that's one of the programs I'd love to highlight, our brand new Emerging Producers Program, which is amplifying the careers of 9 incredibly talented rising producers, a career that's still really daunting and challenging in this industry, especially if you're doing it in the independent space. So really helping to amplify the careers of women who deserve to be producers and shepherding films and television projects through, and yet, still trying to figure out how to surmount those challenges when it comes to being a producer in a sustainable way. So we support them through mentoring and master classes and broadening their networks and communities. And that's similar to a number of our other programs, such as our mentoring program, which is really our flagship. Applications for that program will be opening later this summer. So keep your eyes peeled if you're interested in our mentoring program. Again, that one actually expands multiple disciplines. So we generally have mentoring offerings for directors, creative producers, also executives. And it's a really great way to experience mentoring because it's circles of women as opposed to one-on-one. You have a whole peer group built in as you meet throughout the year with your mentors. You also have peers who you experience that with. We also continued our very successful collaboration and partnership with the Blacklist with our writing labs. We have one for feature screenwriters and another one that's going to happen in October for television writers. That one's been going for nearly 7 years, and our feature residency is in its 4th year. And it's been really rewarding to see the number of writers we've helped support to get jobs, right? I think that's the real point of all of our programs, especially in the career program sector, is not just to provide education, but genuine opportunity to be hired. And so those are just a few of them. We also, again, have our amazing speaker series and screening series, many of which are available to the public right now because we're still in the virtual space. So if you visit our website at wif.org, you can always find out when the next event is happening.
Great. So your writers programs, are those virtual as well that you're having right now?
Currently, they're virtual, which has actually been a really nice shift because we've been able to host a number of writers who are not located in Los Angeles, which has been traditionally where all of our writers have been because we met in person. And so we've had writers from all over the country participate this year. It's likely that our TV writers program will also come back to the in-person space. Of course, we'll do it if we can safely. But we think that being a television writer in the moment, at least in our current industry, it's pretty important that you're in Los Angeles because so many writers' rooms are here in LA. And it's really great to have the network building experience with executives and TV industry leaders while you're here in the city.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. We actually have a writers program as well. And specifically focused on Latinx, all the variations of Latinx. And we're almost 20 years in, which is really great. And we also had to pivot to online. So I don't know, but we'll see. And again, same thing, accommodating people from all over the country. So it's really great and really convenient for them. So I think it's either way, in person or online is a really great way to start. But yes, agreed that they should be here.
And it's tricky. I think accessibility is something we talk about in our work a lot because we shouldn't be, Los Angeles elitists in the sense that there are amazing stories that can come from all over the country. And not everyone has the luxury of being able to relocate, but it doesn't mean they shouldn't be storytellers. So I think moving out of the pandemic, we're really going to have to find that balance.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So I know you have another program and I'd really like to elaborate on it, which is Insight. Since you co-founded this program for women of color, can you tell us a bit more about Insight and what was your part in its creation?
Sure. So we started Insight in 2018 as a collaboration with Ghetto Film School. And it really was a kind of a passion project of conversations with a number of people thinking about, how do we create the kind of standing network that often, cis het white men have had in this industry for a long time, but mirrored for women and people of underrepresented genders of color, because we know that we are so starkly underrepresented across the field still. But it's interesting that, it's evolved over the last 3 years because we really envisioned it more as a collective than say a career or application based program similar to the ones I just described. What women need are a network, right? They need community, and they need to have a space for, just coming to ask questions and know that they have people who've, preceded them and built their careers, but are willing to give back and answer questions. And so what I love about Insight actually is this evolution over time, because it's more of a space and a community than, say, an ABC type impact-based program in that way. The impact really is the community and relationships we're helping these women to build. But it's always been important for us to have it be multidisciplinary. The women are all coming from different walks of the industry: directors, producers, executives, some animators. There have been cinematographers. We kind of have felt it out based on the applications we've seen. And I hope, over time, 3 years is not that much to gauge its, ultimate impact, but people are staying with the WIF community through Insight and getting to know each other. It was challenging during the COVID year because most of our programs, at least in the years when we were in person, were about events and meeting each other and hanging out and building that camaraderie. And I think now, hopefully moving back into somewhat the in real life space, we'll be able to bring that element back to it. But for me, what I really envision for Insight is, again, to be a place where people belong. And so not as much like a vetting, you're allowed in and you're not allowed in, but really, how do we become a hub for women of color, all kinds who work or want to work in the entertainment industry, but feel that isolation or that alienation because we still don't see that many of us working in the places that we desire to be. And I think, that shift is happening, but it's still nice to know that there are quote unquote places we can go to find resources. And so this year we will be hopefully unveiling what Insight will look like for a new crop of applicants, but the past two cohorts have been really incredible. We're still in touch with like the vast majority of them. We had a closing session with Nkechi Okoro Carroll for this last class, and she was amazing. And having advocates and supporters like her who are kind of at the top levels of their career, but really want to support this growing community of women of color advance in their careers is what it's all about. So we're excited to know what the next iteration and then develop the next iteration of Insight, but really hope to keep the community that we've built together, keep going strong.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so wonderful. And can I ask, these women, are they I guess not mentors, but the women that you have them coming in to build the network in higher level positions, are they specifically women of color? Are they all sorts of women from?
Yeah, for the past two cohorts, we have had mentors and also masterclass speakers and sessions with experts, and they've been 100% women of color so far. But it's an interesting question. I think moving forward, we might think about expanding that community as well, because even though maybe the core level of the community will be women and people of color, obviously we need support of white allyship, right? And people in Hollywood who have power are really going to have to, carry their weight and bring these women up as well. So I think it's a great question for this program moving forward. How do we also expand the network with white people who believe in getting our industry to be in a more representative place?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, and what programs do you have upcoming? I know you mentioned one coming up in a couple of months, but.
Yeah, so the next one where we will have applications opening will be our mentoring program. So please sign up for our newsletter if you're interested in mentoring and identify as a woman or someone of an underrepresented gender. Everyone's invited to apply. We are definitely respecting the time now and knowing that we are no longer in a binary system of genders. So that's really important for us. And then we will have a number of programs also opening up towards the end of the year, like our Shorts Night, which is our feature, how we feature our members' programming and content via their short film content, and which will actually happen in January, but the applications will open in the late fall. So stay tuned for that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. There's a lot of programming you guys have going on.
Plenty of programming.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today, Maikiko, and talking about the wonderful opportunities available to women in the film industry. us nonprofits definitely have our work cut out for us, but I know I feel the same way you do, and this work is fulfilling, and we get to give women of color a leg up in pursuing a career in this business. So super important. Let our audiences know where they can find you.
We are at www. Do people still say that? .wif.org. My email is listed on the site, as is the rest of our staff, and you can find all of our programs and their descriptions there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maikiko. Bye.
Thank you, Maikiko, for telling us about the wonderful opportunities Women in Film provides. Speaking about writers in the entertainment industry, here is the National Hispanic Media Coalition's alumni, Ashley Soto, to talk about her experience in their series Scriptwriters program.
Hey y'all, my name is Ashley Soto Paniagua, and I am an alum of the 2017 NHMC TV Writers Program, now called the Series Scriptwriters Program. And it was from there that my career launched. The following summer, I landed a freelance episode on Fast and Furious Spy Racers on Netflix, and what was so special about that was that I was one of 2 writers chosen, and the other writer chosen was Valles Rodriguez, and we completed the NHMC program together. So not only was my very first paid TV writing gig on a Netflix show, part of the Fast and Furious franchise, but I got to do it with a friend. We uplifted each other in the room. It was definitely community over competition, and for my entry point into the industry to be that was just so special, and it would not have been possible without NHMC. Netflix reached out to NHMC reached out to me for my sample, and it snowballed from there. The following summer, I staffed on Vida's 3rd and final season, and I'm now writing on The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, which will air on Disney+. In addition to that, I'm running a scripted podcast room for Broadway Video and Audible, which centers Afro-Latinx community and people. And it's so special and it hits so close to home. My mom is from Mexico and my dad is from Puerto Rico. He's a Black man from the island, Afro-Latinx, Afro-Puerto Rican, and to be able to share this story with the world is so special, and to lead a room filled with Afro-Latinx talent is so self-realizing, and I can't wait to share it with the world, and I would not be here without NHMC. NHMC catapulted my career to what it is today, and I'm so grateful that this program exists.
Thank you, Ashley. The series Scriptwriters program will be celebrating its 20th anniversary in 2022. It's been providing Latinx and other people of color with tools, resources, and opportunities to navigate the industry since then. We have our final honoree of the show, an actor who broke out in the groundbreaking series Pose on FX. You've seen her in Nurse Jackie and Marvel's Luke Cage, and she's just getting started. You'll soon see her in a leading role in the upcoming Apple TV Plus series Loot. And this fall, you can catch her in Lin-Manuel's feature film Tick, Tick, Boom. She's been nominated for a Critics' Choice Award, MTV Movie and TV Awards, and has won 2 Gold Derby Awards and an Imagen Award. So many awards. Most recently, this actor has been nominated for an Emmy, making history as the first transgender woman to be nominated. Congratulations to someone truly making an impact. MJ Rodriguez.
Oh my goodness. So I would like to extend a huge thank you and send some lovely gratitude to the National Hispanic Media Coalition for this amazing honor. I couldn't have done it without you guys. My community shows up for me 100%, so I have to return the favor by doing the work. With that being said, I love you guys. Thank you for seeing me and showing up for me. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely evening, night, or day. I'm over here in the south of France, so I don't know. But yeah, I love y'all. Many blessings.
We're rooting for you, MJ. We know you just begun making your mark on history. The best of luck. For our culminating event of the show, we have a very special guest, Victoria Alonso. We all know the impact the Marvel Cinematic Universe has made in film and media. She is the Executive Vice President of Production at Marvel Studios and has played a pivotal role in making these historic crossover movies and series happen. In a fireside chat with Brenda Castillo, let's welcome Victoria Alonso.
Welcome to NHMC's Women Empowerment Impact Series. We are elated to have you here with us, Victoria.
It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning.
You know, in preparing for this fireside chat, I began to notice some things that we have in common. First of all, you know, your name's Victoria. You don't know this, but my middle name is Victoria.
So is mine. Wait. My first name is Maria, but in my house, you know, in our family, everybody's a Maria. So I sort of dropped it because it was like, you know, my mom will say Maria, and I'm like, no, it's you, no, it's you, no, it's you. You know, my grandmother's a Maria. Like, so, you know, when I moved here, my name is Maria Victoria Alonso Mendez Marroco Crochinelli. It's like way too many. So Victoria Alonso was
So Victoria is your middle name, and my middle name is Victoria. Oh, how wonderful. We both wear glasses.
True. I wish it wasn't, but here we are.
And then I just learned something else that, you know, my abuelita, they were all Marias first. Maria Mercedes, Maria Margarita, and then there was a Maria Maria.
No.
Believe it or not.
That's greedy.
And then we're both over the age of 50.
Indeed, we are.
We are, and we've earned that. And the third thing is that we both say it like it is. We're not afraid to be vocal. So I'm looking forward to this chat because I don't know where we'll take it.
Let's hope it take us somewhere fun.
Very good. So I believe your first job in entertainment was as a page, and now you're the executive producer of Marvel. How did Victoria get from point A to Z? And what characteristics do you feel helped you to get into this position of influence in entertainment?
You know, I would say from A to Z, which I hope is not Z, but from A to wherever I am, it's just sheer work. I worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. And I took every job that came my way. And I did every job that nobody wanted to do because I'm very curious. So whatever people didn't want to do, I was like, oh, I'll do it. No, I'll do that. And I'll do that. And I learned and learned. And then I became that person that knew how to do that only out of my own curiosity. And people say, well, give it to the kid. You know, that kid knows. I give it to her. She's not afraid. Just give it to her. What does she not do? No, but she'll learn. She's really quick. So I sort of got that reputation that I would do it. And if I didn't know how to do it, I would say, I don't know. That was the first, you know, for anyone that is listening, I was very honest about what I didn't know because I didn't want to fail, but I also wanted to do it. So my thing was, let me do it, but please know, I don't know how to do this. I will inform myself and I will make mistakes along the way. And then I just worked and worked and worked. And I had already worked about 13 years in production and about, I don't know, it was 7 or 8 years producing already when I arrived at Marvel. And it's been about 16 years now, 15 and a half that I've been there. So it's been a sheer one step after the other, but really it's there was no grand plan. You know, when we did WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier that just came out in streaming, they were nominated for 28 Emmys. And those are our first 2 shows that we have. And the other day, somebody during press time, they were out, how do you feel about that? And I was like, well, nobody really maps it out like, oh, I want to get 28 Emmys, you know, or nominations. So it's like, it's not a feeling that we knew what it could be, because we never thought that we would even be recognized with an award. So there was no grand plan in my path other than stay employed. work.
What drives Victoria? I mean, there has to be some characteristics that you have that brought you to this position of influence. I mean, you're in a position.
Yeah, I think I'm just curious. I want to do everything. It's and I commit to way too many things. That has been my biggest demise. I say yes to everything, and it's not a good. You know, people that have been have had the beautiful and tough job of being my executive assistant, because I say yes to everything. And they're like, how can you be in Budapest and in LA and this meeting you said yes, but this is New York. But even just like being in the same city, you can't be in 4 places at once. So I think what drives me is I just want to do as much as I can. I want to tell as many stories as we can. I want to meet as many people as we can, and I want to remind them that if it happened to me, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody. I'm not that different. I'm not that special. It can happen to anyone, and that I think is key for anyone that is either starting or they're finding themselves that the hurdles that are in front of their careers, they feel like they're always there and they're always there. And they're, the thing about hurdles is you get to do 2 things, right? You get to either stretch your legs in a way that you haven't consistently, excuse me, or you get to go around them. Either way, it's a muscle that you will consistently have to do in your life. So I say, welcome the hurdles, welcome them, don't fight them.
And if I can share with everybody, because one of the things that is happening in our country, NHMC is very much involved in Washington, D.C. We do a lot of policy work because the decisions that are made in D.C. and the policy that exists affects the economy. And entertainment media industry decides how Latinos, women are going to be portrayed. And then globally, we're perceived a certain way, and that's how we're treated in real life. And for me, there's been a force trying to unhumanize immigrants. And that's what this country is made from, is immigrants. And I just wanted, if you don't mind, to share, you are an immigrant, you're from Argentina.
Absolutely. I'm first and foremost an immigrant.
Very good.
And I've never, people have in the past, not now, but in the, I've been doing this now almost 30 years. So people have said, you don't have an accent. You don't really have to say that you're an immigrant. I'm like, oh, wait. That is not how we're going to do this. I am an immigrant. I am a proud English is my second language immigrant. And I make mistakes in my vocabulary many a times that become really funny moments. But I welcome the fact that I got to tell my story elsewhere, but also that this country welcomed me and that I was able to succeed in my own way, which is not somebody else's way, but also succeed in, I see my story as a success. Other people may not. So, but everybody can look at their story in their own particular way. But I think it's really important for those that feel like they don't belong because they come from another country, another culture, that there is a place for us. I have singing Tourette's, right, Brenda? And so when I tell you there's a place for us, everything in my head goes, there's a place for us, somewhere a place for us. Anyway, I am an immigrant, happy and proud.
And I dedicated this women's summit to my abuelita, who came at the age of 15, crossed the border from Juarez, Mexico to El Paso, Texas, looking for work. And, as her granddaughter, we've contributed so much to this country. And I don't even look at it as we're immigrants because I'm Mexicana and this was Mexico. I'm sitting in California right now. And this was
your homeland.
Mexico. Yeah, so I don't even think of myself as an immigrant. So I say when people say they're crossing the border illegally, ¿y qué? That's what I have. In fact, I have a T-shirt that I wear that says "Feminista." ¿Y qué?
Yeah, I love it. Oh my God, I'm going to make one.
Yes, I'll have to send you one. I'll look for one for you.
I would love it.
Let's talk about Black Widow.
Okay.
I just loved Black Widow. I mean, the empowerment of women. I'm the type of person who sits and look at all the credits. There was Victoria Alonso in the very beginning, and Gabriel Bernstein. I have to tell you, he has worked with us here at NHMC on our Latinx Stream Showcase that's going to premiere at the end of August. So just to see your names up there, I got so excited, and it was in the beginning before the movie starts. I know that those are really important names there. And I just love the movie. The director was a woman. The characters were to have heroes. And I was sitting there, I was watching the movie with my nephew, 18 years old, and he was watching it for the second time. So I was thinking, sitting there watching, God, I wish I had these movies when I was a child growing up, right? And the impact that it's making, and then my mind just starts going like yours. I start thinking, oh, Halloween's coming up. These are some costumes. Maybe this 58-year-old might get into the costume. I'm thinking about these things. And of course, it was the women who restored balance, and, the male character was taking over our minds, our physical bodies, taking the right to produce children away from us.
I think what the movie for me, first of all, I've been living with the character for 12 years, and we love the character. We love Scarlett. We think that she is an unbelievable Black Widow. This movie is about taking our voices back.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is about knowing what your voice sounds like when you've been silenced. And I think that can be, looked at in many, many ways. But one of the things that Kate Shortland, who's our director, and Scarlett Johansson, who is also a producer in our film, that was incredibly important to the women that were in the creative filmmaker team. But to be honest with you, it was really important to the men. It was really, really important to Kevin and Lou and Brad and Brian to make sure that this was something that we could say not in the hit you over the head with the issues, but in a way that is part of our superhero world, but also, there is a Dreykov says in the film, women are trash. And she takes it back and she says, no, we're not. We're not trash. And I think that just to be able to hear it, and maybe there is someone that is not feeling really good about themselves, and they see the movie and they feel empowered to take their voices. I think that's a win. That's a win.
It is. And you often quote Gina Davis's foundation. If she can see it, she can be it.
You can see it, you can be it. Absolutely. And I think that the most important thing about that is that if you don't give it a chance, like there's something really, really special about seeing yourself either on the screen or on print, on a show, on the street, on something, because being different or just being who you are could be perceived as not the norm. I'm not saying you're not normal. I'm saying not the norm. And I think it's incredibly important that people say, you know what, there's beauty in our differences. It's okay. Who you are is okay, regardless of how you are.
Which kind of blends into the next thing I was going to talk about. Victoria, you've done so much for diversity with MCU, and NHMC was so happy to see your statement that came out about the LGBTQ representation, that was coming more representation MCU. So what can we look forward to seeing?
I think there's a lot that you will see. What you have to do is be patient. This pandemic sort of delayed some things and created a bit of a time gap on things that potentially you could have seen sooner rather than later. But we are determined to represent, and that is within the fabric of what our stories are. We're not going to represent for political reasons. That's not our journey. That's what the Human Rights Campaign is about. That's what GLAD is about. We are really storytellers. Within our stories, there will be characters that have that they do identify one way or the other. And I think what's important is that if it's a part of the story, we will address it. If it's not a part of the story, then it can be there because we're not doing it just to do it. So be patient with us, but there's lots coming.
Oh, I'm so excited. So, Victoria, in ending, thank you for being so transparent and open with us. Thank you for what you do for our community. And I want to end, because this is called Women Empowerment. I'm the first female president and CEO of the National Hispanic Media Coalition, January 2020, and I've been wanting to do something like this for quite some time. So what woman in your life empowered you through your journey?
You know, I have to say that I've had powerful women around me in as I went through my journey, whether it was my mother or my wife, and I see my little one, who today is her birthday, by the way. But most importantly, I think that I listened to the little girl in me. And I think that what I would say to the women that are watching this is, if you find that you look around and you don't find that person to guide you through it, look inside.
Wow.
Look inside, because I think the power is within you. And I think that it's important to just allow and give that a forum and that voice a place that can rise. I think that consistently we're trying to look at outside, and they should be coming as the society, the church, the education system, my parents, my friends, my preacher, my coach, my friends. No, you know what? Maybe you just have to get quiet and listen to yourself. There are answers that we have ourselves, and I think we just need to just bring it back and give ourselves that power.
The power is within you.
Within, absolutely.
Besos. Love you. Keep doing what you're doing, Victoria.
I promise you I will. It's a pleasure, and congratulations on being the very first one. I'm sure you're not the last one to take the lead in this organization, but well done.
Gracias, Victoria.
Ciao.
Thank you, Victoria. We know you're hard at work hashing out all the MCU timeline changes, and we can't wait to continue the story and see what happens next. You know, since its inception, the National Hispanic Media Coalition has really pushed boundaries and built bridges to help the entertainment industry to be more inclusive and accurate when it comes to representing the population of the United States. More than half of this population are women, and a person would think that all industries are where they are the majority. So today we acknowledge women in the realms of tech, policy, and entertainment to not only showcase and celebrate their accomplishments, but to remind all of you we are here doing the work. We thank all of the women who joined us here today, and we'll look back on their work very fondly, as their shoulders are the ones that are holding up the next generation of leaders to come. Another big thank you to our sponsors for your continued support. I know I've had such a great time as your host for the National Hispanic Media Coalition's Virtual Impact Summit Series. I know you're all anxious to get back out into the world, so let's make sure to keep updated on the health guidelines in our area and respect each other by staying healthy. By taking care of ourselves, we can take care of our communities. So thank you for joining, and remember, who runs the world?